Alright, today's video, I have Coach Ellen here who's going to explain a very magical technique that help resolve past trauma fast. When I say fast, means someone who has past negative experiences find it hard for them to relive if they have to share all the little details. And in this case, this technique that Coach Ellen is about to share with you is you can get transformation without having to relive the past. So Coach Ellen can explain a bit more here.
Yeah, so it's something that we refer to as emotional restoration. We originally coined it as, or one of our clients actually said, "Oh, this feels like an emotional detox." And right?
Yeah.
That was about a year ago. And the reason why we bring it up is because one thing we've learned about letting go of past emotions, from no matter what it is, whether it's a divorce, a separation, or if somebody was abused, even if it goes back to some time 30, 40, 50 years ago. 50 years is a long time back. And traditionally, what we always assumed, or what we were taught, is that if it goes back that far, you're going to need a long time to learn how to release those feelings. When I say release, I mean get to the point where you can relive the moment in your mind, but not have any emotional attachment to it. Almost like watching a movie that's black and white, that's like 50, 60, 100 years old, and just looking back at that video and being like, oh, that's a really old video. I'm literally talking like having that kind of experience, except the video is your life from your early years, maybe even from your childhood, and maybe have it be so negative where before it would have really hurt you to really relive that moment. Whereas now, if you can replay it in your mind, it's like, it's a video. And the reason why that's important is because we find that when people hang on to their emotions, and I've gone through mine, Helen's gone through hers, when we relive our past comes with us in the present. And if we continue to allow that past to affect us, it also has a way of molding our future, usually in ways that we don't like. And that's why this is so important, because it's the first time that we've had a chance to experience real freedom from a psychological, emotional sense, where the things that used to trigger us, they don't trigger us anymore. Situations and people that used to control the way we felt and thought, they no longer have power over us. Now, it doesn't mean that nothing controls us, nothing triggers us. Of course, there's going to be stuff. It's life, right? Things come up. But instead of having it repeatedly control us, we have a chance to show people how to take their power back, how to take control of their life back. So they get to call their shots on their present moment, and they can choose on how to respond to each and every given situation, which I never had the ability to do until my 30s. I learned this later on in life. And now that Helen and I have gotten good at doing this, we want to get out there and share it with as many people as possible.
Yes. Maybe you can explain a little bit more how this magical tool works.
Helen keeps calling it magical because when we first experienced it, we kind of thought, wow, this is almost like magic too. But of course, the only difference between magic and science is that magic you can't really explain. Whereas science, you should be able to break it down piece by piece, and you should be able to repeat the process over and over and over again and create the same kind of result. Well, instead of me just telling you, let me give you a quick backstory. In 2022, so right now it'd be about a year and a half ago, my dad was suffering from cancer and he was passing away. I was becoming a nervous breakdown and a hopeless wreck, where when we would come to work, I literally would have a hard time focusing. Talking about my dad and him going through his pain and suffering would literally send me to tears uncontrollably. And, now being in my late 40s, at this stage of my life, I never assumed that I would have that kind of loss of self-control. Well, fast forward to several months, to the last month before my dad passed away. Helen brought up the fact that we were in the middle of training for kind of our 2.0 upgrade on our skill sets in clinical hypnosis and NLP. And she actually brought up the fact that we're working on this one technique that was designed to help us reframe certain situations in our life that we felt were so traumatic that instead of having to work on it 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 times, that it gave us the power to be able to work on it one time, make the shift, and have it stick. Have it stick where after you made that shift, you never have to work on it anymore. Literally, like it's just said and done, it's over with. The shift is made, almost like theoretically imagine, it's your first day at the gym. And imagine instead of having to go back every single day to work out, imagine working out once and all of a sudden your body's shifted. Now I know that's in theory. Physically, that's not quite possible, at least not in today's day and age. Maybe in the future, but not now. But psychologically, that is very possible because psychologically, there's no material that needs to transform. It's all in the mind, right? And that's exactly what happened with me and Helen, is that one day she brought that up to me. That was in either November or December, somewhere there of 2022.
November, December.
Yeah. And I said to her, look, we're still new at this, but I'm willing to give it a shot. So to make a long story short, Helen managed to help me where throughout the year and a half that my dad was fading, suffering, she was able to take a year and a half's worth of trauma that I was bottling up inside. And in one afternoon, she got me to switch from feeling so much pain. Like I'm talking about a level 9. Like if 0 to 10, 10 the most is the scale, I was constantly between a 7 and a 9, day after day after day after day, especially towards the last month of my dad's, life before he passed. That was the hardest time of my life.
I never seen you cry.
Yeah.
Cried that day.
That was tremendous. And within an hour, she got me to go from a level 7 to 9 pain all the way down to a 2. It took about maybe 45 minutes. And I remember when we were done the session, the first thing you said to me was, "How do you feel?" And I looked at her almost shocked, feeling kind of bizarre, a little bit weird in my own body because I was expecting to say, I'm still feeling hurt. I want to cry. I feel angry. I feel guilty because I can't help my dad. Instead of saying all those things, I looked at her puzzled. And I remember thinking to myself, like, holy shit, like what is this? Not what is this like I'm hurting. It's like, what is this? Like, where's the hurt? Like, where is that suffering that I just felt just under an hour ago? And she would say to me, she was like, I remember you saying, like, after you said, how do you feel? Like, you were trying to ask me, like, how am I different right now? And I remember her saying to her, I was like, the meaning of my dad's passing has changed. And because the meaning has changed to something that's not so hurtful, automatically, the pain that I had associated to the original meaning faded away. The pain that I had associated to the original meaning of his passing, it was literally drifting away. Like I could feel it distancing itself from me. And it was the first time I ever had that kind of immediate experience. Because all the other techniques we worked on before, like they were good, but they usually required 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 times, repeated over and over again before they really sunk in. Whereas this one that she did with me, this emotional restoration technique, by the time we were done, I literally felt like it was the first time in the year and a half of watching my dad fade, where I actually felt peace. I felt acceptance of his situation. And at that moment, the only pain that I had, if you could really call it, was just the knowingness of that one day I won't be able to give my dad a hug. But in comparison to that, like every morning, every day was just tunnel vision, just at the verge of getting really angry or crying or just being really, really sensitive. I remember one of my clients coming into this very studio. and he said something to me that was a little offsetting. And normally I'm like, hey, whatever. I usually brush stuff like that off. But that day, I looked at him like I wanted to kill him. Like I was just like, what the hell did you just say to me? And he backed up. He was like, hey, look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean like that. That was bad timing. Technically he shouldn't have said what he said, but I definitely shouldn't have reacted the way I reacted. That was not the normal me. And I realized in that moment, oh my God, like I'm going through some serious stuff right now that I must be bottling up because I didn't know I was going to react so assertively to him. And it was an accident. Like he didn't mean to be so crass in his comment. There's something about my dad at the time, but he did. And I wasn't expecting to be so like almost downright, like I was mentally aggressive. And that's when I knew I needed help. So long and the short, the technique has been amazing because I was the first one to have the experience. And ever since then, you and I have gone and helped at least, just going off the numbers in my head, there's about 86 different situations we had in 2023 of helping people where we use that specific technique. And it wasn't bulletproof, okay? Nothing's bulletproof. But to all the people who were open, that were willing to try something different, that were willing to not put their guard up and just let their guard come down to try something new, those individuals had amazing results. And that's why we continue to bring this to you today, because we want you to know if you're going through your own suffering, trauma, long time pain that you're trying to figure out, like how do I get out of this? Well, we got good news for you. There is a way to do it. It just takes a little bit of learning and a little bit of mental openness to absorb this new technology on how to make that shift in the mind.
Yeah, thank you, Coach Allen. It is so magical that's why we're here, is really introducing it to the world that you can live with happy emotions versus carry your past emotion with you. So the goal of the technique is really help you remove the old, people call old baggage, the basically old negative emotion with you. Yes, you cannot change the past memories of events, but the way you feel about those memories, you can do something about, and that's so good. Right?
Agree.
Yeah, so that's why we here is really introduce you something that is so it's so good. We love helping people. So if you're going through suffering, any kind of suffering that you have a hard time dealing with, let us know.